Shawna and Jody here with Real Sisters, Real Talk.
We're glad to have you joining us as we talk about growing in our faith with God. Hello, and welcome to Real Sisters, Real Talk. I am Jody, and here with my sister Shawna. And Shawna, I wanted to start just by telling you a story. And this actually happened a while ago, but something else triggered this recently, this memory. But I remember way back, I had a foot injury, and so I was on crutches. And I was walking into a store on crutches, trying to balance a backpack or whatever bag I had on my shoulder. And I remember seeing this man kind of run to get ahead of me. And I thought, that is so kind. And he ran through the door and shut it on my face.
No.
He did.
Can you not see me right now?
Well, yeah. So part of me is like, oh, you just wanted to be in front of me. But it was like, can you see me here?
Yeah.
Did you not see me almost to the door? And there's so many times in life, whether it's like a physical version of that or an emotional version of that, when I feel like I am invisible.
Yeah.
Am I seen? Which always triggers the reminder of God always sees me, right?
Mm-hmm.
He always sees me.
And it's helpful
but it
when
can
people
be a hard thing.
It can be such a hard thing, and it's really helpful when people with skin on see you. A lot of times that is, God just saying, "Hey, I showed up here through so and so to let you know that I see you in the moment that you're in right now."
Yeah. And it can be something little or something big. I remember, you just shared a story a few weeks ago about somebody opening a door after you'd felt unseen multiple times, and then some stranger opened a door and you'd like, whoa.
Yeah. The God of the universe just made some stranger open the door for me. That's what was going on inside my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so kind that God would do that. Like, you're not invisible. I see you. I have a really good friend who, this has been an issue for a lot of my life, this kind of feeling invisible, feeling unseen. And I know I'm not unique. There's maybe even as you're listening, you're going, well, good grief, Shawna, this is my story. Like, you get it. But a really good friend of mine, his way of saying that he saw what was going on, that he heard me, that I wasn't invisible, was, I'm Horton, because in the Dr. Seuss book, Horton hears a who. Are you familiar with that story? There's a little tiny little bitty who that lives in Whoville, which the whole city is on top of a leaf, and it's like it's like a speck of dust. The whole incredible town is. And so this one little who from Whoville is trying to cry out for help, believes there's somebody bigger out there and crying out for help. And Horton's this big elephant who takes notice of the who's on the leaf in Whoville. Anyway, so yeah, my friend would say, I'm Horton. And I'm like, it just was a way of me feeling so seen in the moments where I felt invisible.
I love that. What a sweet, almost kind of secret way of saying, I see you.
I see you. I get it. You. Yeah, I get it. What is it too about knowing, like, when you're going through it, having somebody recognize, like, I see you, like, I get it. I understand you're going through.
It doesn't make right. So it doesn't actually make what we're experiencing any more valid when somebody sees us, I think it brings that community aspect in. It also maybe makes it feel a little bit more legitimate, like what you're going through is real and legit. And
yeah, you're not alone in it. You're just not alone in it. Yeah, and that matters so much. I'm doing this Bible study by Sherry Harney, praying with women of the Bible. It's so good. It's 30 days, and there's like 30 different women. And I was doing this study. I'm leading a group of women through it on Mondays. And sometimes, I'm sure you've had this happen, but sometimes we're reading through Scripture, and always we see God's character, but sometimes we get little glimpses of ourselves in the people, in the stories. And so I'm doing this Bible study. I'm reading through this story of Hagar in Genesis 16. And just to give you a little backstory, if you aren't familiar with who she is, she was a maidservant to Sarai. Well, at that point, she was Sarai. And Sarai's husband, Abram, God had given them a promise that they would be the parents of nations, but they had not yet conceived a baby. And so Sarai gets impatient with God's timing. And so she says to her husband, Abram, take my servant girl and have a baby through her. And that way we can see God's promises fulfilled. This would be a good place to stop and say, when God gives you a really good promise, wait on him to bring it about. Don't take matters into your own hands.
This is one of those moments of, hey, God, I got this really good plan.
Yeah,
that was good. I'll go ahead and handle it from here, right?
I heard you. No. I got it. I'm on it. I make it happen.
Right.
Yeah, not so
Ouch.
good. But she ends up, so, Abram, her husband, goes along with it. And so, yeah, Hagar ends up getting pregnant. But then Sarai is just really wrestling with all the real feelings of still wanting to carry a baby herself. And now her maidservant is carrying her husband's child. You have to understand that this is happening in the ancient world, where this was not something that God says this is how you should live your life, but it was a reality. It's a description of the world that they lived in at that time. So Sarai starts mistreating Hagar because she's pregnant. Like, it was her plan. It was her idea. And now she's taking it out on Hagar, and she just gets to the point where she's like, I'm done. I'm out. And Hagar runs for the hills. And God meets her in that place of her running. She didn't have a plan. She just up and went. And God meets her in her running, and she says, you are the God who sees me. She names him, you are the God who sees me in my moment of distress.
Which is so powerful. And so significant for us when we're in, she was at rock bottom. Like, let's just name it. She had, that was the first time. Yes. The next time she runs, she actually goes and places her son, when she and her son are both cast out, she goes and places her son under a tree because she can't bear to watch him die. Right. And so, but in her lowest of lows, like, we're not talking about it was a bad day and she couldn't find a parking spot. Like, she was cast out of the only security that was there to literally die. And God shows up in such a real way.
Yeah.
And she recognizes that she is not insignificant. She's not just an Egyptian slave girl. She matters to God. And she was not a Hebrew. She was not, she was an Egyptian. So she was a foreigner, and God sees her. Right?
He sees her because
because
that's our God. God is a God who creates, and he creates diversity, and he loves diversity. And so I started telling the story by saying, sometimes you read in scripture and you see a little bit of yourself in someone. There's a whole lot here that does not apply, because I've never been an Egyptian slave girl. There's just like a whole bunch of, obviously, her circumstances that don't apply to mine. But the point at which, I identify with her wanting to run. I actually discovered this about myself when the last time that I came to see Dad before he went to heaven, and we had the hospice meeting. We were sitting in your living room, Jodes, and it was all the sisters and the employee from hospice. And all of a sudden, really very much all of a sudden, I just wanted to very calmly stand up, walk out the front door, down the street, make a left, go as far as I could go, make a right, go as far as I could, and just like keep walking. And I realized that was crazy. I realized I could not do that. Like, I had the sense to know that's going to be frowned upon and somebody's going to come after you. That's not a good plan. So I got up and I went in the kitchen, and Lauren was making dinner for us. And I just said, "Hey, Lou, can I help with dinner?" And the look on her face said it all, but she was like, "Auntie Shawna, you need to be in there, you know?" But it was the first time that I came to the end of my capacity, and I was like, my dad is dying, and we're having a conversation about end of life and what that's going to look like. And I don't know when it's going to be, but more than likely soon. And like all of the things, they were more than my body or my mind or my emotions could process in that moment. And I was like, out, I need out. I have got to get out of here. And I feel like that's where Hagar was. I mean, entirely different circumstances, but she was just like, I don't have a plan. This was, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk out the door. I'm going to go down the street as far as I can go. I'm going to make a left. You know what I mean? Like there was no well thought through, this is how this is going to go down. It was just, I have got to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting also to look at that story that you experienced, and I remember that very well. But the desire to walk out the front door and go down the street and just keep walking, and to flee that way, you knew in your mind that was not, as much as that's what you wanted to do, you knew you couldn't do it.
Right.
But so like you took a second escape plan by going to the kitchen and seeing if Lou needed some help with dinner, right? And so you did enter into that one. So it's like, okay, I can't walk down the street, but I can do this. And so I wonder how often we do that as our escape plan. Whatever it is that we feel like, God's not seeing us, he's not meeting us where we need or what we want, the way we want him to meet that need or something. And we might not be able to do the big escape, but we do little things to distance ourselves from the situation, which might be distancing ourselves from God. It might be distancing ourselves, apparently I can't say that word, from community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or whatever situation we're facing.
That's deep, Jones. Like we could really sit on that, because there are ways in which it's maybe obvious in the church that you would not respond in this way. And so a lot of times we come up with a holier route. Well, you know what? I'll just pour myself into serving. I will, every opportunity I get, I'll do the thing. And I'll just be at church 7 days a week. Yep. I'll just keep myself busy. And it's like, that is as much avoidance as too much alcohol or, drugs,
overeating or
right. Like
absolutely
fill in the blank. We just have maybe more palatable or acceptable ways of doing the same thing.
Exactly. And that seems godly. And so we can even get away with it usually for a time. Okay. I don't know if this is stretching this, but I have just taught on Exodus 2. And so we're with our women's Bible study, we're going through Exodus. And Exodus 2 is when Moses, so the last verse of Exodus 1 is that Pharaoh commanded that all baby boys be thrown into the Nile River. And so then we get to Exodus 2 and Moses is born, and he's, his mom hides him for 3 months because all the boys are supposed to be thrown into the Nile River. So she hides him for 3 months, and then she builds this little, it's actually literally translated ark, but his little basket, and she puts him in. It's the same word as what is used for Noah's ark. So that's just it. That's
fun.
Just,
no extra charge on that one.
Right? No extra charge. So she puts him in the Nile River, and she walks away because she couldn't, most likely because she couldn't bear to see what came next. Right. And so she had her daughter watch Moses as he floated down the river. But you just think, there's times when we, retreat, we feel so, can you imagine this young couple having a baby in oppression and slavery and just feeling like, God, how can you not see us? You gave us this gift of this child, and now they're going to take his life. Where are you? And yet God was 100% completely sovereign and at work.
Oh my goodness. He had a plan. He had a plan. He was working his plan. And I mean, and that's what's true about Hagar's life too, is he comes to her, he meets her in that moment when she says, "You are the God who sees me." And he says, "Listen, I've got a plan. this is what's going to go down. You are going to be the mother of a nation, in a sense, you are going to be, you're going to have so many kids. And he gives her this promise to hold on to. And I think the hardest part of this one is he tells her to go back. That's a part of the story that I don't like.
Right. Right. He tells her to go back, and she does. She's obedient. And life was not easy. And then she's cast out with her teenage son yet again. Right. And they have to make a way in the country, like in the desert. They have to find their way. But God is with them every step of the way. So I think sometimes, maybe sometimes when we think God does not see us, maybe part of that is tied to life is hard, and we think that if God sees us, life should be easy.
Yeah, why didn't he fix it? Like, why isn't he doing something?
Why isn't he stepping in?
But the truth of the matter is, in both of these stories, with Moses and with Hagar, God did see what was going on, and he did have a plan, and he was actually working his plan in the moment. They couldn't see it, which is one of my favorite parts of the story of Hagar, because not only did she say, you are the God who sees me, but then she goes on to say, I have seen the God who sees me. So the plan was at work before she saw it. Before she saw it, God was already doing it. The plan was already there. It was already in motion. He was present with her all of that time. But she says, oh, now I have seen the God who sees me. Now I get it. Now I know you're here.
Okay, so sister, now this, again, taking another turn, she sees the God who sees her. We've talked about this in the past many, many times, but developing this practice of even asking God, can you show me where you're at work today? Or at the end of the day, God, can you show me where you were at work today? Can you give me eyes to see where you were? Because if we're not looking for him, we're not going to see him. Like, she was at her rock bottom. She thought she was going to die. And so she was all alone. She was at her rock bottom. And then she encounters God, and then she says, I see the God who sees me.
Yeah.
So, like, we need to have eyes to see where he is at work. We need to have eyes to see what he's up to, so that it can build our faith, but we have to be looking, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Looking and trusting in his character when we can't see the outcomes yet. I mean, there's an area of my life where I can't see what God is doing. It doesn't make any sense to me. I can see how he would fix it. Like, I have an idea and a plan of some things that he could do that would make it easier. And I pray into that. I ask God for breakthrough in this area of my life. But even when I can't see what he's doing, I trust that he's good.
Right. Even when the outcome is not what you want, and like you said, you can't see him, you still trust him.
Right. And there's a level of comfort for my soul and my situation in knowing, because it's tempting at times to think nobody gets it. Like, nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody actually gets it. And there's a part of feeling alone in it that does make you feel very invisible. And so in those moments when you feel, and to me, invisible kind of equals insignificant. And so in the moments when I feel invisible and I feel insignificant, to be reminded that God is the God who sees me, and that he has a plan, that there is a purpose. He's the God who creates, names, fills, and gives purpose to everything. And so the stuff that you're going through, the stuff I'm going through, it's not for naught. It's not for nothing.
Which honestly is a whole nother difficult subject of when we have unanswered prayer, or it's unanswered in the way we want it to be answered. Like, we know that God can heal, right? We know that, physical, emotional, spiritual, like we know God can heal. And often it's not in the uh, super dramatic way that we want it to be. Often it's walking through it. And so that's, I think, in a time when it's so easy to feel insignificant or unseen. It's like, God, we have begged you for this. We have begged you for
Mm-hmm.
this. And you're not doing it. Why?
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to understand. But you look at Hagar's life, you look at Moses' life, like
Look at
from the
Jesus's
time that
life.
look, oh my goodness, right? Talk about the hard road. But it is, we do trust that God is sovereign and it is his plan. The thing about looking at the characters in the Bible, like Moses, you can see like 80 years pass between his birth. He's 80 years old when he comes back to Egypt to um free the Israelites. But we read it in a couple of pages.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what Jesus endured, like we read it we can sit down in one reading, but that's not the way that it happens. And so I think it's easy to lose sight of when
Yeah.
we can see the full picture and we know the end of the story. We think that what we're dealing with is so much more difficult or it's different than that. But the truth is, when they were in it, when Joseph was in his most difficult days, he didn't know what the end was going to
Mm-hmm.
be. He didn't know.
Yeah. And I love that as we read through the stories, even like we were just talking about, like getting a glimpse of Moses' story is not the whole story. But even as we take a look at Hagar's life and we look at her story, and I mean, honestly, if we just take this chunk of her story, Sarai is just like right under the bus. Like she just, you know what? She screwed up royally. True of this particular circumstance, but we are not defined by any particular circumstance in our life. God is doing something way bigger in us. God gave her a promise that she would be the mother of the nations, and he fulfilled that promise in her in the most delightful and unexpected way at the most unexpected time, as she saw, all of her peers getting pregnant and having babies, and then those children growing up, every gathering, every play date, right? She's the mom without the kid. And
Yeah.
then those kids grow up and they start having kids, and her friends are now becoming grandparents. And she is holding on to this promise that God is going to provide not just a child, but like she's going to be the mother of the nations. But it requires a lot of believing for a long, long season. But God fulfills his promises in her life.
He does. He does. So she gets the one son. She gets Isaac, and she does get at 99 years old. And so, I mean, talk about also like her feeling unseen, right? But then
Yeah.
you fast forward hundreds of years, because from Jacob, when Joseph dies at the end of Genesis to the beginning of Exodus, is 400 years. So we've got hundreds of years from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to Joseph to Moses, right? This nation, so 70 men plus their women, wives, and children came out of the promised land into Egypt when Joseph was in Egypt. And then the number that left Egypt when Moses rescues them out of Egypt, God rescues them out of Egypt,
right, through Moses,
was six. Yeah, in Exodus 12, it tells us it was 600,000 men plus the women and children. And so,
and who was
we're
the
talking
mama?
about like that barren woman
Yep.
who could not see God at work, who actually took things into her own hands by giving her maidservant to her husband because she thought, well, God's not doing it. So I guess I better make it happen, right? Which only created turmoil in the relationships, right? And you just think, oh my goodness, this nation, but it came generations later. So she got the one son,
Yes.
but she didn't see the fulfillment of that promise.
Yeah. I mean, there was even trouble, not trouble with, but like after receiving that son, then God called her to do called Abraham to do something unheard of. But we're covering the entire Old Testament at this point. But I'm telling you,
man. We're just going for it.
Here's the thing, because God's character, he's the same. He's the same in Genesis. He's so consistently who he is, and the way that he worked in the world then with them, he works in my life and in your life today. He's still the God who sees you. And you and I have the opportunity to see the God who sees us. So how do we do that? How do we see the God who sees us? When the crap is hitting the fan, Jode's like, when we're at our bottom, when we're at our Hagar moment and we're running for the hills, how do you fix your eyes on the one who sees you?
So I think sometimes for me, that takes me hitting kind of rock bottom and being stopped in my tracks when the only thing I have left is to look up and say, God, where are you? And he's like, okay, let's do this now. And so it really is turning to him in relationship with him and asking him, God, can you show me where you're at work? God, can you give me something to grasp onto here? It is, he's ready to show me. He is at work. It's really my mindset that needs to change so that I can see him at work, even in the hard times, even in the midst of the trials. It is me that needs to turn to him to see it. So often that comes in prayer. It comes in silence.
Oh, just to see it. There's so many thoughts flying through my mind right now, and we're coming close to needing to wrap up. But I'm thinking about Elijah and Elisha, and was it Elisha and his servant who was, they were surrounded?
Yes.
And he said,
I love that one.
All right, let's go. It's game time, and his servant is like, there's way more of them than there are of us. And he says to God, show them. And then he sees the veil is lifted from his eyes, and he's able to see the angel armies. I mean, God is up to stuff. He's doing stuff that we cannot see in this moment. He sees you. You're not alone in what you're going through. He's never going to leave you alone in what you're going through. He's working his grand plan, and we can fix our eyes on him. I'm thinking too of, do you know the song? It's a very simple little chorus. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Do you know that?
I don't think so.
It's just, it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. And it's a chorus that just repeats over and over again. And that is our reality. That was the reality, when they were going into battle. It's our reality when we're running for the hills, when we're having our Hagar moment. It's your reality right now, that what you're sitting in, you're not alone. God sees you.
Amen. One other thing I just want to point out before we wrap this up, we've given a bunch of references out of the Old Testament. And the reason that we're able to do that is because the Old Testament, like Exodus might look like it's a story about Moses, and it does tell his life. And Genesis might seem like it's a story about Abraham and Isaac
Joseph.
and Jacob and Noah and, for sure. But the truth is, all of the Bible is a story about God, and it points to God. So if you want to know more about God's character, if you want to see God at work, if you want to know how to recognize how he works and the ways that he's active in the world, read the Bible, Old Testament,
so good.
New Testament. I know sometimes we want to get to the New Testament, but there's so much. I mean, look at what we just covered today in the
just
Old Testament
in the flow
and how
of a conversation.
Points us to God. Right?
It's
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so good. And God is good. And you are not forgotten, and you're not insignificant. His eye is on you. You have such great value to him. You matter. You matter to him. He's working his plan in your life and through your life. He's with you. And so today, in the midst of all of it, you can fix your eyes on him and know that we serve a real God, and he really loves you.